Well, it's what I said earlier. Once everyone wanted to be a DJ, then suddenly everyone did become. And now it feels that way with production, that anyone can be a producer. And you look at the last 12 months, and I think the point has really been made that there's so many people out there producing that shouldn't be producing. When once we had labels, you had to go through the whole process and the knockbacks of labels, and we need to change this and we won't release that. Now anyone can set up. You could set up your own label tomorrow and just start releasing whatever you wanted, and suddenly you've got a great marketing tool. Yeah. And I think this is another part of the problem is we're now the only so many DJs that we get are just these guys that have marketed themselves with huge amounts of production, but they're not great DJs. And so the whole art of DJing, and then you wonder at what point the experience as the punter, on the dance floor, is just so lessened because you're not getting that wow factor anymore. You're not. I just think the investment when you have to spend, or when you had to spend $100 and all you ever got was 4 or 5 tunes, there was really a huge element of commitment that is this what you want to do? Because you'd find in 2 or 3 months that shit, that's a lot of money I've already spent, and am I going to be here in another 3 months? And the number of people that would potentially fall off. Whereas, if you can get 100 tunes now for that amount of money.
Well, we're assuming that you're actually paying for it.
That's an incredibly valid point as well. That
the biggest expense is the software.
Yeah,
to play back,
anyone and everyone can and will pay.
Yeah. So the biggest expense is a little controller.
Personally, I'm just really disappointed when I hear someone who is crap, whether they're playing on vinyl or CDJs. I suppose it's another story if you're off Ableton, and then how you use it or how you want to interpret it, or whether it's your own material. But if it's someone trying to put 1 to 2 and they're doing a shit job, I think, it's got to a pretty sad state. But I feel actually sorry for the punter, because is that where their level of expectation now rests? Because how much are they going to be wowed by someone who is genuinely really, really good and can actually rock it and create that real magic that can come when you just hear the mixes together? I think that's where the beauty of DJing is. It's just when you've just what's happening with these 2 tunes, or you get 2 tunes people kind of know, and what happens in there. But it's not. It's just we'll get an outro and we'll get an intro. And
well, I think that was the thing as well, is that tracks started getting written more and more with the DJ playing it out in mind. So the tracks have that nice 16 bar fishtail, and then there are these big build-ups and drops and build-ups and drops, where I know when I was starting to beat mash and everything, it was tracks, or tools. You had tracks that you had to kind of work them to create those things to happen. Whereas now it's just we've got to get from one track to another, and then that track will do that bit, and then we do the same thing over and over again. Big plans for the future? Is there anything kind of...
Well, I've been working on this album for 2 years. Don't ask me any questions, but it's this is an actual album of all original. I wish I just done one of those. That was easy. It's full marks to anyone who's done an album, because just the undertaking's just and to make it all work as a whole,
rather than just a CD full of singles, which was kind of what the initial idea was just like, I've got enough singles here, let's put an album out. And then the more I thought about it, and then I started listening to albums over the years that inspired me, and that just depressed me and did my head in, and so I've changed my tune and changed my take on a number of occasions, but it's almost there. And I'm sure the second one will come a lot more quickly. And I kind of know what I want to do for a second one. Actually, I want to ditch the whole 4/4 thing entirely anyway, and just do kind of more electronica stuff, because I think that's what I genuinely enjoy producing more than trying to write another track for a dance floor. It's it feels the problem with trying to, like, when you're doing a remix or writing stuff for a dance floor and then giving it to a label to release on Beatport or whatever, is you get too tied up with what the hell's happening at the moment. And I sort of go back and, like, for me, like, that recent Fuck Buttons album is just blowing my mind, and I go back and listen to, like, early Grid and stuff, and just that slightly Balearic feel, electronic feel, and it's sort of always been a real secret passion of mine. And sort of a sound we used to play in Christchurch anyway, all that sort of slower tempo stuff, and that's what I really, really want to do once this other album's out, is just go down more on that road. Just I don't care if anyone buys it or not. Just on a personal level, I think it'd be much more from me and much more personally satisfying than trying to write another sort of, I don't know, housey, techy, electro-y, whatever album. Even though that album's got lots of sort of that sort of stuff on it, like half of it is more that. But I think if I could throw the more dance floor stuff away now and give myself another 6 months, I'd turn the whole thing into that direction. Yeah.
I guess for the final horrifically cliche question, what would be your advice to anybody getting into DJing now? And because you're probably the most qualified person nearly in the country to give it.
The best advice is just to follow your heart, and just because you see another DJ playing tracks that a dance floor responds to, and if you turn around and play those tracks and you're not feeling it, then don't play them. And, you know, I've made plenty of fuck-ups, you know, and changes and things over the years. But the one thing that always strikes me sometimes is when I play a tune and I get that feeling of, like, I'm going to hide behind the decks till this is finished, is just that evaluation, and those mistakes to make are really, really good, and you need to acknowledge them. And I think if you follow your heart, and I think I've followed my heart pretty much, you know, 90% of the time, you know, as I said, you know, like a lot of people, I've, you know, turned a few corners, maybe I look back and go, wish I hadn't, but I think as long as your heart's in it, then I think people will respond to that. And I think that's absolutely crucial for longevity. And I think hopefully that way people will acknowledge and respect you as a result, that, you know, you defined or created a sound, or, you know, something that reflected or people identified as you at that time. For production, I think you've just got to work and work and work at it. It's only by trying things and making a lot of mistakes are you ever going to create, you know, your sound. And I think as a result of doing this album for the last 2 years, I think I've got kind of started to create something that I feel is more me, and I'm kind of settled. And just from what I've said before, I think I know what my sound is, and a sound can come from more just the way you work those plugins and those synths and drum machines than the actual physical sound that's created that comes out of the speakers. I think the way you work your tools creates your sound.
Yeah.
And that takes, you know, as you're probably well aware, takes a hell of a long time to come to terms with.